Out with Don Conklin. Don is a Signworld owner in a little town, Beaufort, Georgia. Don, tell us about your business.
All right, so I got to go through the list that Cherie sent to me. So the name of my company is Pinnacle Custom Signs. We're located in Beaufort, Georgia. My wife and I are completing 9 years in business, about ready to go into our 10th year. We started out in 2,000 square feet. We're now up to 12,375 square feet. Teresa and I own the building and charge rent back to the company. We have 19 employees right now. Looks like $3.5 million for this year. We're finishing up our largest project, which was a $750,000 project for doing all of the monument signs for the library system of Fulton County government, which is the largest county in Georgia. And then I came out of the telecom industry. I was in AT&T as was Teresa. I think that covers it.
Don, we had a little bit of audio garble. What was that latest project worth?
Oh, I'm sorry, Fulton County government, which is the largest county in Georgia. We are doing 20 monument signs for their 20 libraries, which is about $750,000.
$750,000, single project. Okay. And again, your projected sales this year, $3.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, Jim Zavorsky, also in Metro Atlanta, specifically Alpharetta. Yes.
That is correct. Alpharetta. Alpharetta Sign Company is the name of my business in North Atlanta metro market. I've been in business, it'll be going on 3 years in December, about 2.5 years. And I have a space of about 3,200 square feet, which is plenty of space for me right now. I don't expect to grow out of that anytime soon. I currently have 3 employees and plus myself, so that's 4 altogether. My 2020 sales projection is about 500. Biggest customer or biggest project would be a monument sign that I did for a local union here in the Metro Atlanta market. That was $20,000. And my background career, I'm similar to Don. I had a career in telecom, and telecom is very popular here in Atlanta. There's a lot of guys. So that was my career background.
Okay, thank you, James. Okay, Jim Tardif, also in Atlanta. Jim, give us a wave so everybody can see you there. You're kind of in the dark. All right. Tell us a little bit about your business, Jim.
All right, so another Atlanta sign shop. So our profile is going to look a lot like Jim's. The name is Signs of Significance. We started about 5 years ago, almost exactly 5 years ago. We're in Roswell, Georgia, so just a northern Atlanta suburb. We have 2,500 square feet. We're still in our first location, although we're looking now to add a little square footage as my 5-year lease comes up for renegotiation soon. We currently have 4 employees. I would have said pre-pandemic that we would be doing right around $500,000 this year, but that's going to need to be adjusted at this point. My background is I spent 30 years in sales and marketing with General Electric. And then I joined I retired from GE, joined another company in the Atlanta area as the global sales director for about 3 years, then left and started a sign shop with my son, Christian. I think our biggest project that we have that we're working right now is about a $30,000 project with Kimberly Clark, where we are redoing all of they've got a big campus here in Roswell, and we're redoing all of the exterior signage for them.
Way to go, Jim. Congratulations. Congratulations. Okay, and last but not least, Jack Werner. Jack is currently the president and the owner of Signworld, and Jack will tell you his story.
I started in 1995, 25 years ago, at 1,200 square feet. At that time, we were more of a retail operation, honestly, more of a banner shop. We didn't have digital printing. And we had the yellow pages. I grew to 5,000 square feet over a 10-year period with a staff of 11 doing 1.3 million in sales. I then sold the operation to join Ken at the corporate office to learn his end of the business, finished buying him out 6 years ago last week. And Ken has stayed on as director of sales and teach a sales class, a number of other duties. Appreciate his being here. When I answer questions today, if it goes to my experience running a sign company, I'll speak from that perspective. If it goes more towards sales and training and corporate questions, I'll answer from that perspective. Depending on the question, I'll answer from that.
Okay, did you have a couple of definitions for us, Jack, before we start?
For you. One, you know, a lot of times, back up, most of you are looking at Signworld along with looking at several franchises, and Signworld is the exception to that. We're an owners alliance rather than a franchise, and for a couple of reasons. We believe that a franchise is appropriate if it's a cookie cutter approach to every single customer, the rule book, the product, the name, and whatever. And this is custom manufacturing to a small core of repeatable customers. So the rule book doesn't apply, the common name doesn't apply. And by doing that, you live royalty free. So in Signworld, there's no rules, no royalties. A lot of people will tell you that they enjoy the freedom, the flexibility of Signworld gives, but also the camaraderie of the other Signworld owners, that they're able to peer support each other differently than you do in the franchise. We realize if you don't join Signworld, you're going to join a franchise. We're not here to disparage a franchise. It's an alternative to what we do. We're an alternative to what they do. A lot of times people confuse us with printers. Printers do the commodity items, the brochures, the catalogs, the business cards, the envelopes. That's an equipment-heavy, stagnant industry. We're in the custom manufacturing. While we're doing graphics and logos and print like they are, it's the custom production. As small as a postage stamp to the entire side of the building, different shapes and dimensions, different materials, but it's the application afterwards. It's screwing it to the post, gluing it to the wall, putting it on the vehicle. You can't order it online. Internet's our best friend bringing us leads, but it's not a order entry site. It's a lead generation site. There's more signs in the world today than there were yesterday, and there'll be more tomorrow. So it's an industry that continues to grow. Ken, why don't you go ahead and start with what you're doing?
Okay, let's jump in with the questions. So Brennan, you're first up. Brennan, come off of mute. Okay, go ahead. Ask a question, Brennan.
Well, good morning, first of all, and thank y'all for doing this. I don't have a question right off the gate. I'm new. I'm learning about franchises and getting in this industry. So I'll pass on this one, and then I'm all ears.
Okay. Next up, A. Dye. That must be Aaron Dye. Aaron, are you there? Come off of mute. Go ahead, Aaron.
All right. Thanks again. My name's Aaron Dye. I live in Prescott, Arizona right now. And I'm definitely one of the ones that's looking into this or franchising. So I'm pretty, this is my first anything to do with either a franchise or these owner businesses. So I'm getting excited about doing all this stuff. So I guess my first question would be, as franchisees, how do you guys truly support each other, like asking each other questions, jumping on the phone, getting information from each other? How do you market, all that stuff? Do you truly stay together and ask those questions of each other?
Don Conklin, 11 years, Signworld owner. Tell us your response to that, Don.
I think I've done work for both gyms on the call. I've probably cut checks to 50 different Signworld owners nationally for doing work for me, for my customers and their locations. So yes, as a network, we're a family, and I have a lot of good friends that are owners that I talk to on a fairly regular basis.
Don, do a lot of Signworld owners call you with questions?
They do, and that's not a
Okay.
problem. I'm always glad to answer because it's kind of a pay it forward kind of thing.
And as you mentioned, in a given year, you'll maybe do business with 50 other Signworld owners where you're working a project together and sharing the profits.
Absolutely.
Okay. Jim Zaborski, your response to that, the Signworld family, and how does that all work for you? Come on, there you go.
Let me just
Jim.
come off mute here real quick. So yeah, like Don said, you know, I relied on Don a lot since he's in the Atlanta market. I relied on him a lot when I first started. I don't know how many times I bugged you, Don, but I know it was a lot. So appreciate your support. And I constantly get calls from other Signworld owners across the country. Happy to work with them. And the network really is a great resource for me and for other owners because we get to rely upon one another, ask questions, ask the important questions that you need to run your business. And the other owners are always there to support you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Jim Tardif, your thoughts on the support from the other owners, the interaction?
Yeah, I would echo both Don and Jim. And Don's been a tremendous resource for me and for Signs of Significance. Another owner was Dave Coulter, who owned Apex Signs and Graphics. He was like a mentor to me when I was first starting, as well as Don. And we had a tight enough bond when Dave decided to retire. We bought Apex Signs and Graphics. So we actually run two brands out of this place right now. But the Owner Alliance, in my opinion, is probably the best resource available to me from Signworld. It's just been tremendous.
Thank you, Jim. Jack Warner, your thoughts?
You know, Signworld wouldn't exist without these owners who have bought into it. We talked to every single person like you that in the very first conversation that we're relationship built problem solvers, and it's a pay it forward family. We're encouraging you that if you join, that you're going to get this support from the others and that you're going to give it back to the others. It's the biggest asset you're buying into. For those on the call, just a quick FYI for you. If you go in the top right-hand corner of the screen, there's a little button there called Speaker View. If you click on that, instead of getting just all the small screens of everybody, it'll switch to whoever's talking at that time and be able to get a better view of the Signworld owners that are speaking.
Okay. Jerry Wamser. Jerry, go ahead with your question.
I've got a question on municipal signs such as reflective DOT approved signs, maybe for small municipalities. Does anyone do those?
Don Conklin, you make signs for the city?
We don't make those types of signs, the transportation signs and that side, but like I said earlier, I mean, we do a lot of signs for governments. It's just not those types of traffic signs.
Jim Zaborski?
No, I don't do transportation signs either. It's just something that it either hasn't come across my desk and or just hasn't materialized in some form or fashion.
Jim Tardif?
Yeah, again, my answer is very similar. We do work for municipalities, local governments, but we've not done any big street signs.
All right. Jack Warner?
I did a fair number of signs that went along the freeways talking about keeping the roadways clear in that sort of lumber. And Signworld owners have done lots of those types of projects. It depends. It's just one of the many, many niches that are out there.
Okay. Ravi, come off of mute. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today. I'm also here to educate myself on the business, learn from your experiences.
Ravi, you went mute on us. You're muted again.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead. Okay. Go ahead with your question, Ravi.
Two areas I'd like to probe and learn a little more about is the startup process. So, you know, you came out of the telecom industry and you decided to join Signworld. You know, if you could talk a little bit about how did you go about getting that first contract, what, you know, the process was to ramp up from there, the journey, if you will, and whether the growth came through customer acquisition, new customer acquisition, or building your equipment capability to broaden your offerings internally, just to learn a little bit about how you went about it. And as a new entrepreneur coming in this space, what should we be prepared for?
Don Conklin, did you have orders before you even opened up?
I did. So, I mean, the majority of my orders are in the early part was through networking, through customer, going out to chambers of commerce, people I knew, people I did business with, people I went to church with. So the first thing you're doing is going out there, acquiring customers, acquiring customers, acquiring customers. I'm never worried about equipment. Over time, as you get your business bigger and bigger, you may want to think about getting additional equipment to handle additional needs, but out of the gate, you can outsource that stuff. But the number one thing in this business is to concentrate on getting customers, servicing customers, and keeping customers. 60% of my revenue comes from my existing customers.
Okay. Jim Zavorsky, your thoughts?
So in the beginning, you're, like Don said, acquiring customers. You're using all the resources that you have available to you, your personal networking, chambers of commerce, like Don mentioned, and other contacts that you may have. But you're also hopefully got your website up and running, and you're getting leads in from your website, SEO and all that good stuff. But you're acquiring customers and building your base of your business in the beginning. You're not really expanding until later, until your business really calls for it. But that's both in a people aspect as well as an equipment aspect. So that's been my experience.
Okay, and Jim Tardif?
Yeah, so when I started, I have a sales background, right? So when I started, I was talking to everybody and anybody that would listen to me about signs. So my personal networks, going out, if I was walking into a business to do business with them, whether it was getting my car fixed or a restaurant, I was dropping off a business card saying I'm in the sign business, asking them for their sign business. Since then, I've gotten involved in a lot of networking. So I do a ton of networking, and we also have the Signs of Significance and the Apex Signs and Graphics websites still up and running. And we get a lot of business from those two websites.
Okay, while we're on that subject, back to all three of you. Don Conklin, what % of your new business, not your repeat business, but what % of your new business comes from your website, internet?
50%.
Jim Zavorsky, what % of your new business comes from your website?
I'd say about 65, 70.
And Jim Tardif?
Yeah, I'd put mine in the 70% range.
Okay. And Jack Werner, your thoughts on the subject?
Well, number one, 90% of our owners have never done sales before. So it's okay for the non-salesperson. It's a very consultative sale. The only customer we're looking for are people that are already telling us they have a need, and we're there to say, I can manage your project. There's a 2-year sales and marketing coaching program to make you effective. The internet is going to drive more and more of their business. Most new Signworld owners will tell you by the end of the first year, 75% of their new business is coming from their website, and they've got more leads coming in. They have time to follow up on. It's more bandwidth issue to growth than it is anything else.
Okay. Up next is Michael Harris. Michael, come off of mute. Go ahead, Michael.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Harris, out in Kuna, Idaho. And I have about 23 years experience in the oil and gas industry. And due to recent times, have found myself somewhat early retired. So I have a very limited experience, actually zero experience in sign making, and was just curious of the training that's offered. What kind of training will we receive, and where do we receive that training?
Jack, do you want to start out?
There's 5 weeks worth of training prior to opening, enough to make you functional. And there's a calendar of ongoing training, live, not recorded, that you can partake in virtually every day for the rest of your life to make you the expert at it. Realize, Michael, nobody in Signworld had sign experience. You're no different than anybody else. We're looking for your relationship building skill. We're looking for your project management skill. You're looking for your nurturing your staff skill. We can teach you what signs are. All these gentlemen here and everybody else in Signworld, none of us had sign experience prior.
Don Conklin, your thoughts on the training?
Training provided was great. Plenty of training, more than you can shake a stick at, as we say in the South. And quite frankly, today I couldn't design, make, or install a sign, but I have a lot of people that can do that for me. So it's really not just understanding the business, it's actually hiring people that can do it for you.
Jim Zavorsky, your thoughts on training?
So the training that I received was more than adequate. It was great. There's so much training and resources available. I think you'd have a hard time consuming it all. I know I did. So there's more than you actually can consume at one point.
Jim Tardif, your thoughts on training?
The training was outstanding, and it's ongoing. Right? There are webinars all the time. Cherie sends out notices on ongoing training. Probably the biggest resource for me were the other Signworld owners who I could reach out to ask questions, as well as the person that I hired as my designer. One of the first things he said to me is, Jim, you're going to go out and try and sell signs, and people are going to ask you questions. Can you do this? Can you do that? Just tell them, yes, we can, and bring it back here, and we'll figure out how to get it done.
Okay. Layne, come off of mute. Go ahead.
Hello, this is Layne Party. Thanks for taking these questions. It's been pretty interesting so far. What I'd like to ask is if you guys could kind of think back to before you knew anything about sign business and you were trying to come up and develop your business plan. You know, Jack was kind enough to share a number of business plans with me, and I was just curious from your perspective, how did you tailor those plans to meet your region, your anticipated sales, costs, etc.? And were there many surprises along the way, either positive or negative, that things didn't go according to plan or went better than planned?
Don Conklin, tell us about your business plan before you opened, and did you meet your plan, and how did you develop your plan? Developed my plan jointly with my wife, Teresa, came up with what our markets were, what our strengths were. You probably read one of my plans, would be my guess, Jack. So, and then we adjusted as we went along. You know, plans are nothing, planning is everything, as Eisenhower would say. So you just adjust as you go along. But we had a focus of where we were going to be in 4 years, and we never lost sight of that focus. And every time we had an opportunity to get to that 4-year mark earlier, like hiring someone, buying a piece of equipment, buying a facility, we would do that. So the plans are something that's always evolving. Okay. Jim Zavorsky, tell us about your thoughts and what you put into your plan.
So my plan, I think I actually looked at Don's pro forma plan when I started, and it was very similar to what I finally came up with. There's a lot that goes into it. I would, you know, pay particular close attention if I were to do it again to my cost and what I was spending, and keep that, you know, very much on the forefront. The revenue will come, and I think it's mostly about managing your cost in the beginning.
Jim Tardif, your plan?
When we started, I used the template that Signworld provided to help me put my plan together. I talked with some other local owners to get some input from them. But like Jim said, cost is critical. As a new entrepreneur at that point, having come from corporate America, I didn't have a full appreciation of how important every little penny counted, but you learn that quickly. So costs are important, and then your strategic growth initiatives are important, but always keep selling. One of the things you'll find is you'll sell, spend a lot of time getting those orders, and now you've got to fulfill on those orders. Don't stop selling as you as you shift gears to do some fulfillment, you'll find that that sine wave can cause you problems when you hit the bottom if you stop selling.
Jack Werner, your thoughts?
You know, I think as you get into validation, realizing this is an owner-driven business, your first conversation with a Signworld owner is interesting. Second one, you got to ask yourself, am I more like number one or more like number two? And after you talk to a bunch, you're going to find a handful of them that you're going to find similar skill sets, ability, talents, energy, and you're going to base your expectations off of comparing yourself to them.
Okay. Pat Bixenman. Pat, come on from you.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Pat.
I'm Pat Bixenman. I've got 35 years in the oil industry, similar to your prior caller, a little more gray hair, I'm sure. And for same reasons, you know, it's just, it's time to look for other alternatives. I live in the Denver area up in Evergreen, and have been talking to Jack about potentially starting a business. One of the things, you know, the owner network sounds, really good and helpful. The one question I had is, I know all of you use subcontractors or suppliers, you know, how does it work for a new business? You know, do the other owners hook up the new owners with their subcontractors and suppliers, or, you know, can you comment on that?
Jack, will you start out with the suppliers that we give them?
Well, one, we've got a full network of suppliers, manufacturers that can fabricate all the things you can't. You know, the installation is more on the local level. So you'll first talk to the other Signworld owners in your area to learn who they've learned to lean on and get references from it. You're going to find there's a whole subculture out there. So everything that you need to have done can be done on a regional level, on a national level, and on a local level.
Okay. Don Conklin, I don't know if you caught the question. Tell us about suppliers. What percent of your raw materials do you buy from the Signworld recommended suppliers? What percent do you buy from other suppliers, and why?
I probably buy 95% of my supplies from Signworld guys because of the fact they are the cheapest out there. You cannot get a better price than a Signworld price at some of the larger places out there I've tried. And then as far as subcontractors, there are different subcontractors in different markets. I think I've given Jim my subcontractor list when they've needed it for people to do electrical installs and stuff like that. So it's local knowledge as well. But as far as the suppliers, Signworld's done an excellent job getting basically any kind of signage supply you would absolutely need.
Jim Zavorsky, your thoughts?
So I've been, working with Don and others owners in the network, and I could say, it's been great. The suppliers that you need to run your business are readily available. There's a whole ecosystem out there. You just got to plug yourself into, and you start, knocking them down and picking them up, and away you go. It's all there for you to network into.
Jim Tardif?
Yeah, the list of suppliers, whether they're the distributors or fabricators that Signworld provides is great. You'll figure out who the local people are that you need to interface with. And as you become a larger presence in your marketplace, others will continue to start reaching out to you to introduce themselves to you. So it's an organic process from a local supplier business or relationship, but it'll happen.
Okay. Hector Martinez. Hector, come on from you. Go ahead, Hector. Hello, Hector. We cannot hear you, Hector. Check your speakers on your computer.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes, we hear you now, Hector.
Okay,
Go ahead.
sorry about that. I was having some issues with my AirPods. So my question is, obviously during this pandemic, do you all have a backup plan regarding a sign maker if he were to get sick? I mean, maybe not just the pandemic, but just in general. How would you all treat that? And again, thank you all for the time today.
Don Conklin, what's your backup plan in case somebody gets sick at your employees?
Signworld will teach you that when you start out, you hire yourself and a sign maker and a part-time person. And that part-time person can jump in when the sign maker is out. Right now, with 18 people, I have the luxury of having a couple of sign makers. So I'm never worried about being without one. But I also know that if I was without one and I need to print something or do something like that, I can always go to a local Signworld partner and they would help me out with the sign making part of that as well.
Jim Zavorsky, what would you do if one of your employees got sick?
Well, so I've got 3 employees, so I do have a little bit of a bench, but not a big one. So I would rely on my ecosystem, other Signworld owners and other suppliers that could pick up the slack. And there's also, if you're talking about graphic design, there's all kinds of graphic design you can pick up off the web. If you're talking about sign making, you can have signs made elsewhere for a while until your person comes back. If you're talking about installation, you can always go with various vendors in the ecosystem as well.
Okay. Jim Tardif, what would you do if one of your employees got sick? You're on mute, Jim. Jim, you're on mute.
Yep, sorry about that. So I have had that happen to me, and same as these guys, the primary resource would likely be the local other Signworld owners that we've got relationships with. But we can also outsource to a lot of our different vendors locally. So there's options for us.
Jack Warner, your thoughts?
I think it's been explained pretty well. Getting past the first employee and having the part-timers and having multiple staff, and then the ecosystem and other suppliers that we have. We've gone through fires, floods, tornadoes, and we've never had a Signworld be out of business because of issues.
Okay. To my Signworld panel, we still have a number of people to go, so maybe shorter answers, please. Shorter answers. Scottie Brown. Scottie, come off of mute.
Okay.
Where did you?
All right.
Go
Thank
ahead,
you, guys. Thank you all so much. One of the things that was shared to me was some of the financial numbers. And so I want to touch on gross sales. How do you attest to the gross income numbers over the first 3 years? One of the things that was shared with me was, I'll give an example, 250 in the first year. And from 250, I'll skip second year, it kind of goes to 517 gross sales in the third year. So if you were to look back at your business, how would you kind of attest to those gross sales within your business?
Don Conklin, what were your gross sales year 1, year 2, year 3?
300, 500, $1 million.
Jim Zavorsky, what were your gross sales year 1, year 2, year 3?
So it'll be 380, 450, and close to 500.
And Jim Tardif, your gross sales first 3 years?
I would say 200, 300, 500.
Okay. And Jack Warner, your gross sales year 1, year 2, year 3?
I was 400, 600, 800, and $1 million.
Okay. Michael Bruce. Michael, come off of mute. Michael Bruce, in your picture box, top right-hand corner, click on the 3 dots and unmute yourself. Or click on the microphone. No, click on the 3 dots. Are you there, Michael Bruce? Alma C. DuBois. Alma, come off of mute. Go ahead,
Hello.
Alma.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you all for your time. I'm just curious, I heard y'all say different things about signage that you were doing for exterior, for a monument, and then even sourcing out. So I'm curious, is there any one thing or one area you focus on, or are you pretty much open to anything because you can resource it out? But within your walls, what do you do if you focus on an area?
Okay. Don Conklin, did you start out as a generalist? Are you a generalist today? What do you focus on?
We're a generalist. We are a generalist. We basically do all things. but we focus on certain customers, which are franchisees and multi-location customers.
Okay. Jim Zavorsky, are you a generalist? Have you specialized in anything now?
So in the beginning, you know, you're a generalist, but I tend to specialize in vehicle wraps and commercial signage such as channel letters and lobby signs.
Okay. Jim Tardif, generalist, specialist?
Generalist, for sure.
Any special things that you target?
I don't have anything. When I'm doing my networking, I say business signage, because that's about as specific as I get.
Jack Werner?
I started as a generalist, but because of my background, most of my customers are restaurant chains and retail chains. That's where we came from. Ken, I'm going to start a couple of slideshows that are going to go on in the background. There's no audio to these. We'll continue with questions. The first one is just showing you some of the operations inside and out so you can see what their facilities look like. Second slideshow goes to what is a sign, both what can you make in-house with the original equipment, to what we outsource, to some things that you wouldn't even consider as a sign. Third slideshow goes to our wall of fame, showing you some more of the unique and elaborate projects that the owners get into over time. So we'll continue with questions while these slideshows go.
Okay. David Steyer, did I pronounce it right, David? Come off of mute. Hello, David. Keith C. Johnson. Keith, come off of mute. Go ahead, Keith.
Thank you. Question, how challenging or time consuming is the pricing part of your job?
Okay. Don Conklin, pricing. First of all, do you have a good software program from us to do it with?
Yeah, we have an excellent software program that's provided by Signworld, so I don't get too hung up on pricing. We can price things pretty quickly.
Okay. Jim Zavorsky, pricing?
Yeah, actually, I did a pricing or an estimate while I was talking on the phone here. It's pretty easy, pretty quick.
Okay. Jim Tardif?
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Once you get a feel for your market levels, you start to be able to look at a project and get a pricing out or a price quote out pretty quick.
And Jack Werner, tell us what a new owner gets regarding pricing.
You know, there's a very elaborate business management software system called CoreBridge. You can look them up online. They're the largest provider in the world of business management software in our industry. It'll do your CRM, your inventory control, your estimating, your invoicing, your project management, your processing of orders, your credit card processing, your time clock, and then dropping into QuickBooks Pro for accounting purposes. You're going to spend about 50 hours learning to just navigate, and then more hours after that. It's very custom. You can set up custom dashboards to do that. We're also going to teach you how to learn to, you know, basically you're charging for three things. You're charging for the materials, you're charging for the effort, and your expertise to do it. And there's some certain benchmarks that you can use to learn to price quickly, as well as using very sophisticated software.
And may I add to that that we have continuing ongoing pricing training. So we have pricing webinars every week, something going on in pricing training. Brett, without a last.
David has found the unmute button. So David, go ahead and go ask your question.
I did not catch that. Can you say that a little louder, a little closer to your microphone?
David found his unmute button, so David can go ahead and go ask your question now.
Oh, David Steyer, go ahead, David.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Well, thank you for your time. I guess one question I have is for the owners, when we're going into this process of starting up, you know, we all have expectations about what's going to happen. What was one or two of the most surprising things that you discovered or you found to be the case that you didn't expect to be so?
Okay. Don Conklin, what was one of the most surprising things that came up to you, for you in the beginning?
I would say probably how quickly we can grow. I didn't think we can grow as quickly as we did, but we had people who wanted to buy from us a lot more quickly than I thought that would be the case.
Jim Zavorsky, what was the big surprise to you in the beginning?
Well, I would say it was how busy I became and how quickly things got backed up. It's a constant struggle.
Jim Tardif, big surprise in the beginning.
I would say how much business comes through your website. So pay attention to your website.
And Jack, biggest surprise for you in the beginning?
You know, it was two things. How many different people there are that need a sign for their business, and how many different ways a sign can be made. It's a challenge in the beginning, but it's a blessing long term.
Brett, come off of mute. Brett, tell us your last name, please.
Yeah, last name is Murdoch, M-U-R-D-O-C-K, Murdoch. So, yeah, hey, good
Go
afternoon.
ahead, Brett.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Hey, my questions are centered around also around the financial analysis of this, and I'm curious to understand kind of at how many months were you breaking even on your investment, and then what your most recent annual net profit percentage was.
Okay, Don Conklin, how many months were you in business before you broke even cash on cash?
Second month, and last year was a 27% net margin to the bottom line.
And let me ask another question that'll help everyone. How many months were you in business, Don, before you took your first paycheck?
6 months.
Okay. Jim Zavorsky, how many months were you in business before you broke even cash on cash?
So it would be about 4 months, and then I started getting paid at about 12 months.
And last year, what was your overall net cash flow to the owner net profit?
Oh, it was 23%.
23%. And Don Conklin, you said 26%?
I think you said 27.
27%, Jack. I think
27%. 27%. And Jim Tardif, how many months were you in business before you broke even cash on cash?
3 months.
And how long before you took your first paycheck?
Well, that's tricky. One of the things I did is I took a lot of the profits and reinvested when we bought another.
Okay. How many months when you could have taken a paycheck? How's that?
6.
6 months. And what is last year your overall net profit, net cash flow to the owner?
25%.
25%. Jack Werner?
I was profitable first month, took first check in 6 months, and I ran consistently at 25% net. Most Signworld owners will tell you they're between a 20 and a 30% net. Lower in the beginning because of higher percentage to fixed costs on lower volume. Senior Signworld owners efficiently running plus 30%. Most are hovering in the 25% there.
Okay. Greg Hunt. Greg, come off of mute.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Greg.
I'm calling from Round Rock, Texas, outside of Austin. Lots of good questions already. So one that's still in my mind is, are you making the kind of signs that you thought you would make? So you started as generalist, but did you have an idea of what kind of signs you thought you were going to be making? And is that what you're doing now?
Don Conklin, 11 years ago, what did you think you were going to do, and what are you really doing now?
I had no clue what a sign was, all I know is that it was a means to an end, which was making money, and I'm making all sorts of signs now that I never thought I'd be able to make.
Jim Zavorsky?
So in the beginning, you're a generalist, so you try to make everything, find what you're good at, and go down that path.
Jim Tardif?
When I started, about all I knew about signs was I had to stop at a stop sign. And now we're doing all kinds of things. We've wrapped vehicles, we've wrapped guitars, we've wrapped just about anything you can think of, and then monument signs, all different kinds of signs.
Jack Warner?
I think you can see by the slideshow we're playing, you have no clue what your first project is going to be. And so you become more general, and then over time, narrow the field of what you want to do and what you don't want to do. Let the niche come to you over time.
Okay. Alan Impink. Come off of mute, Alan. Go
thanks
ahead.
everybody for thanks everybody for doing this. My question is more actually
closer to the microphone, Alan. Closer, a little louder.
Sure. Actually, one of the guys just asked the question I was going to ask about how soon you were going to be able to break even or make a profit. But I also had another question, which was, has your business been affected by the COVID shutdowns or any of the other shutdowns? And if it has, to what extent? And what is your outlook looking forward? With the COVID, if you haven't yet been affected, are you expecting to be?
Don Conklin?
Business slowed a little bit in March and April. We had the best month we ever had in June. And the expectation is for us to continue to do better than we were planning on doing when the year started.
Jim Zavorsky?
So the business caught COVID. I did not, but it's a V-shaped recovery. It came right back. And we're going at full blast right now.
Jim Tardif?
We furloughed the team. I kept coming in, so the shop never closed, but we furloughed the team here for 7 weeks. Right now, we're as busy as we've ever been, but we're dealing with the fact that we stopped for about 7 weeks, and that cash flow through the pipeline was affected. So we're still living with that, but right now we're writing more orders than we ever have.
Jack Warner, what would your thoughts be about the family overall?
I think overall, it's what you've heard here is fairly consistent. Based on municipalities and whatever, some were shut down more than others. Some did more remote work. Virtually all were considered an essential business and allowed to do it. The good news is you're talking a couple of employees and several thousand square feet, so it's a pretty safe environment. You're meeting a couple of customers, if any, per day, and so there's not a lot of interaction, so it's a safe environment for you and your staff. That's important. There's many Signworld owners that tell you they're making lots of COVID signs or safe distancing signs or sneeze guards, and there's others that'll say, I'm so busy with the regular stuff, I haven't had time to do that stuff. So it's interesting. Signs kind of ride through a bad economy, no matter what it is.
Dave Scottow. Dave, come off of mute.
Thank you, Ken. My name is Dave Scottow. I'm from McKinney, Texas. I want to thank you guys for taking your time to answer our questions today. Because I'm going to be in the Dallas area, kind of particularly interested in how you guys handle competition. I think I've gotten some of the sense that you're very collaborative, you share a lot of things, but when you compete, how do you avoid stepping on each other's toes and all that?
Don Conklin, do you compete with other Signworld owners?
I don't think I've ever run into a competitive bid with another Signworld owner. If I do, maybe once or twice, I would back away and let Signworld owner who currently bid on it take care of it for the most part.
Jim Zavorsky, have you ever compete with other Signworld owners? You're surrounded by other owners.
I imagine at some point the numbers say that you have to, but it never really comes up. It's not really a concern for me. I just keep plugging away.
Jim Tardif, you too are surrounded by Signworld owners, other owners all around you. Do you ever compete with them?
I sure am surrounded by them, but I don't, as far as I know, I don't very often compete with other Signworld owners. For the most part, when I know I'm competing with another shop, it's typically a Signorama or a Fast Sign, and we can usually beat them on quality and response time.
Jack Warner, Signworld owners competing with other Signworld owners. Your thoughts?
Oh, it's interesting. We've got 3 that are in the Atlanta market. And Atlanta is probably our fullest market. We have 22 operations there. And Signworld, because you're going after a small core of repeatable customers, and in many cases, you're then taking care of them on a regional and national level, and you're going after different niches of business. Our advice is always talk to the other Signworld owners that are around you. Find out who their key customers are so you can respect and have some boundaries. And you need their help more than you want to alienate them. It's very, very rare where Signworld owners are competing with each other.
Christopher Maples. Christopher, come on from mute.
Christopher has typed his question. He said, what is on the horizon for new technology and new streams of revenue?
Don
Thanks.
Conklin.
Good afternoon. Thanks, everyone. That was the question I had. I've listened to all the others, pretty good questions. But what do you guys see on the horizon? What's next, you know, in terms of just looking through the slideshow? I see you're doing everything, but what are you preparing for in the next year or 5 years? Thank you.
Don Conklin, what's coming down the pike for you?
I see more use of electronic messaging centers, whether they be electronic menu boards in restaurants or other things like that. So dynamic digital displays is probably a big area of growth, would be my guess.
Okay. Jim Zavorsky, what do you see coming down the pike?
Yeah, electronic message boards, electronics. Yeah.
Jim Tardif?
I would say the same thing, but from an external sign perspective, a lot of the cities in my marketplace don't allow them. So that it would have to be more internally focused.
Jack Warner, what's coming down the pike?
More digitally printed wallpaper, environment walls. Compared to vehicles, there's no bumpers and mirrors. It's larger square footage. You're not dealing with environment. So whether it's corporate lobby signage, restaurants, culture walls, lots of digitally printed wallpaper.
And may I add, now that the COVID-19 virus is making all of us get used to looking down on the floor for instructions, that floor graphics, even after the virus is over, floor graphics will be a very big thing as well. Aziz Hogue, come off of mute. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be, listening to everyone. So one question that I have is, I mean, I joined in late. I don't know if I missed that part about the marketing. How is the marketing done? Is it, is there any corporate, effort doing the marketing for everyone, or individually the owners do their own marketing?
Okay, Jack, you want to start out with the overall marketing approach?
Rather than giving you customers and customers you might not want or products you might not want, we're doing more to teach you how to get your own customers and then be able to follow them regionally and nationally. I've got new operation training this week. We spent yesterday talking about marketing the business, and in new owner training, we're going to give you 56 different things that you can do to create the lead flow. But of the 56, there's really 5 big ones. The other 50 are there at hands. To begin with, it's who you already know in life. Signs touch every business. So you're going to reach out not to sell them a sign, but to consult and say, I'm available if you want. To then have you join the chamber, the networking group, the Rotary Club, and make communications with the business leaders in your area. We're going to help you build a custom website that over the next number of months is going to drive more and more of your business. Most Signworld owners will tell you by the end of the first year, they don't have time to network anymore. The website is driving most of it. Long term, it's repeat customers, and long term, it's referrals from one to another.
And Aziz, earlier in the call, the question was asked, what is your number one way to get business in the beginning? And all of the owners answered that probably around 75% of their new business comes from their website, from the internet. Our goal is to launch your website 6 weeks before you open, so that by the time you open day one, you are getting phone calls. But most owners will tell you that in the beginning, most of your business is going to come from your website, the internet, which means the customer is chasing you, Aziz. You're not out chasing the customer. You're not out cold calling. Don Conklin, did you ever really go cold calling since day one?
I have made one cold call and glad to announce I have 100% close rate over 9 years.
And Jim Zavorsky, do you go cold calling? Did you in the beginning?
I did locally with my neighbors, but I, generally, no, I don't.
And Jim Tardif, cold calling?
Early on, like I said earlier, when I first started, if I walked into a business, I'd share with them that I was in the sign business. But beyond that, we've done virtually no cold calling. but I'm impressed with Don's close rate.
All right. Is there anybody that I missed? Anybody that has not had a chance to ask a question? Please unmute yourself, say something. Sheree, do we have some questions?
Yes. Clayton Brewer asked, he said, I'd like to ask about what the training will look like for both myself and employees I would hire down the road.
Jack, do you want to go over that?
There's 5 weeks worth of training prior to open. A week of virtual business training. We can do that by Zoom like this. You're then coming out to California to spend 4 days on site learning the equipment, learning how signs are made. You're then going to go work on the job at 7 different locations for a day apiece, learning how each of their operations run it a little bit differently. We're then going to have a technician come out on site and spend 3 days making sure the equipment is dialed in properly. And you're going to spend about 50 hours learning the business management software effectively another full week. You're then going to go into a 2-year sales and marketing coaching program every week with either Ken in the beginning and graduating to my class. I teach the advanced class every Monday for the first 2 years. You're going to join a mastermind group where you and 6 to 8 other Signworlds meet weekly, discuss operational issues. There's a full calendar of ongoing training. We've got a blog site where owners post questions daily. Where do I buy? How do I price? There's a library of every question that's been asked for the last 15 years. Keyword search all those questions. Signworld owners are talking to each other daily about how to run businesses. We normally have a large convention every spring. We weren't able to host that this year, and so our convention is going to be 3 Fridays in August, where we're going to do it virtually by Zoom. 2 days of training with guest speakers and panel discussions, and then a day of trade show where each of the suppliers on our roster will have their own meeting room, and for you to go and visit each of those and talk to each of the suppliers and discuss your needs and wants and desires and what they can offer. There's more ongoing training than you'll ever have time to participate in.
Okay, we're a little over the hour, so if we don't have any more questions, Jack, do you want to close it out for us?
I'll close it out because we know Jim and Don and Jim again, you guys are busy and we appreciate the time and effort you put into being here. We appreciate you guys helping. For those of you that are interested in digging deeper, go back to Ken, go back to Dan, go back to myself, and let's talk about what next steps are. Signworld's alive and well and busy, even in this environment. The owners are kicking it off well and getting a lot of business. So we wish all of you the best. Stay safe, stay healthy, and let's talk some more.
Thanks, everybody.